6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave him a dinner, and Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard and anointed Jesus' feet, and she wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." When the great crowd of the Jewish authorities learned that he was there, they came not only because of Jesus, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests planned to put Lazarus to death as well, since it was on account of him that many of the Jews were deserting and were believing in Jesus. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
6 tablespoons of butter divided, 3/4 cup onion diced, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 30-ounce bag of shredded hash browns thawed, 1 10.5-ounce can of condensed cream of chicken soup, 1 cup of sour cream or plain Greek yogurt, 1/4 cup grated Parmesan cheese, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon ground pepper, 2 cups of sharp cheddar cheese shredded, 1.5 cup of crushed cornflake cereal or panko bread crumbs. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees. In a medium-sized skillet, add 2 tablespoons of butter and saute until the onions are translucent. Add garlic and cook until fragrant. Remove from heat and set aside in a large bowl. Mix together the cooked onions, the hash browns, the condensed soup, sour cream, Parmesan cheese, salt, pepper, and 1.5 cups of cheddar cheese. "Never heard of them," I said. "Seriously? They're delicious, crunchy and gooey, and they smell so good when they come out of the oven. Seriously, you've never heard of them?" "Nope. They sound delicious, and I bet when you have the onions and then add that bacon, they smell too good to be true." "Well, I guess it makes sense. You aren't from around here. It was a Mormon thing, I think, but the rest of us had kind of gotten in on the act. Anyway, it's what I'm bringing for after the service. They may sound good, Charlie, but you really have to smell and taste them for yourself," she said. If the start of the sermon makes no sense, it's because I wonder what the point of this story in John really is. How does it line up? It's more like a painting. The book of John is unique. It's different than Matthew, Mark, and Luke, where there's a lot of Jesus went here, he did this, he said this, and a lot of events are recorded along the way, and they pretty much match up. To me, at least, it's like the first 3 Gospels are like a painting, where you can pretty much make out who's who and what's going on. Then we go into John's art studio, and he's covered in different colored paints. Plastic sheets are on the floor, and a giant canvas on the wall where he's slinging different colored paints with brushes and buckets. You can see some characters that definitely look the same, but there's a different feel, there's a different vibe altogether. It's not so much where did Jesus go and what did he do and what happened. It's more like, let me paint you a picture through stories with colors and light, smells. This will tell us where, not only where and why and when, but rather who was this guy, Jesus? The scene that we come upon is a suburb about 2 miles outside of Jerusalem called Bethany. And Jesus goes to hang out with his friends, Mary and Martha and Lazarus, who a few days before Jesus had raised from the dead. Why did he do that? What kind of guy takes a friend who's been dead for 4 days safely in the arms of God and brings him back? I don't know for sure. I can guess, but I would imagine your guess is probably as good as mine. But it does tell us something about who Jesus is. We do know what happens as a result, though. He's painted a huge target on his back, this Jesus. And now he's gone from bizarre country rabbi and a manageable nuisance to public enemy number one. And Lazarus ain't far behind. If they got to kill Jesus, they got to kill Lazarus too, because he's the evidence of Jesus' power and who Jesus really is. So how does Jesus respond to the danger? He goes back for a party. What kind of guy does that? A dinner. Martha's cooking like always. She's boiling vegetables, baking bread, telling Lazarus, please don't burn the lamb like you always do. Mary, can you set the table, please? Mary? Well, that girl, she's always got her head in the clouds, wandering off again. Jesus and the disciples are sitting around. Can you imagine the smells and the sounds? There's coals crackling, wood smoke in the background, water bubbling, Mary's homemade bread in the stone oven, lamb with herbs and spices wafts in and out. Tummies growl as Martha swats Peter's hand as he reaches for an olive from the bowl, smiling, not yet, Peter. You had it coming, laughs John, and everyone laughs out loud. There's the smell of rich lamb, bread, maybe the smell of family, maybe the smell of hope. Now where is Mary, Martha mutters. Then it happens. Mary enters the room and approaches Jesus. She kneels in front of him, and everyone freezes, afraid to breathe. Then she reaches behind her head and unpins her hair, which breaks free from the knot it was tied in and cascades out over her face and her shoulders. No one says a word, afraid to move. Martha manages to give Lazarus a look that says, watch it, you're burning the lamb again. But no single woman takes her hair down in public, much less in front of a single man. And she cracks a seal on an expensive clay jar, and again, no one dares move or say a word. The room explodes with the woody, earthy, musky smell of spikenard, a soothing honeysuckle-like odor. Will she anoint Jesus' head, proclaiming him a king for John's story? Is that who this scratch and sniff portrait points to? No, she anoints his feet instead. Spikenard, although used as an herbal medicine, was used mostly to prepare a body for burial. Who is this guy? Mary seems to be saying, this guy is Jesus, whose time is almost up. Then after she puts the expensive oil on his feet, enough to feed a family for a year, we are told, she wipes it all off with her hair. What? How bizarre. What does this mean? But Jesus says nothing. He just watches her, taking it all in. He knows what it means. Then comes the kicker. Lazarus takes the meat off the grill. Martha silently slides the bread out of the oven. And Judas says what a lot of them may have been thinking. What the hell was that all about? It's all wasted on the ground, and it's all in your hair. At least it could have been put to use for the poor. And John tells us Jesus says something equally bizarre and out of place. Can you just leave her alone? Really, can someone, anyone, take care of me just once? I needed that, and she's the only one that gets it. You'll always have the poor, but you won't always have me. This is not the Jesus we expect. The Jesus we expect is all about the poor and self-sacrifice. And there's the painting. Jesus sitting at the table, his feet oily with spikenard, staring at Mary. Mary on her knees at his feet. Her wild hair covers her face, slick with oil, weeping. Judas with an angry, embarrassed look on his face, the disciples shifting from one foot to another. Lazarus cradling a platter of meat. Mary laying a loaf of bread on the table. The room a riot of smells from lambs, herb, bread, wood smoke, and pure spikenard perfume. What does it mean? What pithy, wise, underlying meaning will the minister tell us to show us once and for all what this means? Or perhaps is this the meaning itself? The painting and the smells. Maybe this is what it looks like when friends come together to take care of each other, when the scent of death is in the air. There's confusion. There's conflict. There are inexplicable acts of kindness and hospitality. Some cook the meat, others the bread, while others give the hugs. And yes, some of us get slapped when we try to steal a piece of fried chicken before it's time. The painting and smells, maybe, are ones that tell us in part who Jesus was and is, and how we are to love one another. Spread the mixture in a 9 by 13 inch baking pan, top with remaining half-cup cheddar cheese. Melt the remaining 4 tablespoons of butter and mix with the crushed cornflake crumbs. Sprinkle evenly over the top of the casserole. Bake for 50 to 60 minutes or until cooked throughout and bubbly. Amen.